Wow, Kanye's been taking L's left and right and right and left and left and right. And deservingly so. What he's been saying lately is ignorant, targeted, and hateful. In saying all this though, I won't be talking about whether Kanye should be canceled or not, but what I will be dissecting is whether Kanye literally can be canceled. If that's something that's ever crossed your mind, I suggest staying with me as I dive into this one. Lately, Kanye has been wildin', but this isn't anything new for those who have been following him from the jump. One of the earliest instances of this was way back in 2004 when Kanye was up for Best New Artist at the American Music Awards and lost to country star Gretchen Wilson. Immediately afterwards, he told the reporter backstage, "I felt like I was definitely robbed and I refused to give any politically correct bullshit ass comment. I was the best new artist this year." Then it was just a year later when he did this.
The destruction of the spirit of the people of southern Louisiana and Mississippi may end up being the most tragic loss of all.
George Bush doesn't care about black people.
In the past, Kanye's had some headline-catching controversies like this George Bush one and the Taylor Swift VMA incident. However, these were so far and few between that one could rationalize it by seeing Kanye as just slipping up and making mistakes like we all do. Yet as of recent, they are not so far and few. It's hard to pin exactly where Kanye went from the far and few to the close and many, but if I were to pin a single date, I would go with April 25th, 2018. April 25th, 2018 could go down in history labeled as the Great Divide for all Kanye fans. Those who stuck with him after this and those who got the hell out. This is the day I believe it all began going downhill for Kanye. On April 25th, 2018, Kanye tweeted a photo of himself wearing Trump's notorious MAGA hat with the caption, "My MAGA hat is signed." For me, this is when the complete downhill spiral for Ye began. Not even a month later, he would go on TMZ to claim slavery was a choice. From then on, it seems like Kanye has only been competing with himself to one-up his previously controversial statement with one that's even more ludicrous. In July 2020, he announced he'd be running for president, and then shortly after, he held a rally in South Carolina. I watched this event, even though it was pretty hard to. It felt like I got a private, personal, and vulnerable look into Kanye's mental state. The hour-long speech, if you can call it that, perfectly visualized how Kanye's manic state can take over him. One minute he'd be hyped, motivated, and inspired, and the next he's having a breakdown and in tears talking about abortion.
Spoiler alert.
Kanye lost the election with 0.04% of all votes. The following year, during the Donda release rollout, it seemed like Kanye was inviting controversy when he had Marilyn Manson and DaBaby stand alongside him at this release. Since then, I can name so many different instances of Kanye doing things where when you'd hear it, you'd say to yourself, no way. The list goes on, and his most recent headline-grabbing outbursts seem to continuously outdo themselves in their ignorance. Yet although all of this has happened, I see the same question get brought up time and time again, and that's why hasn't Kanye been canceled yet? The term canceled has been thrown around quite a bit, but when you get into the nitty-gritty, what does that actually mean? In pondering this, I realized very rarely do we see someone fully canceled and outcasted from society. So rather than using that drastic definition, in my opinion, being canceled is rather, and stay with me on this one, the resulting effects of your status being tarnished by society through repercussions associated with one's action. I see these resulting effects boil down into two main consequences. These are money and popularity, and a decrease in both. Popularity due to your fans turning their backs on you as well as media no longer covering you, and then a loss of money through a variety of ways such as loss of sponsorship and endorsements, booking for events, and even at times a full career thrown out the door. So taking this into consideration, let's take a look at a few times when it seemed Kanye would get canceled but seemingly didn't. Let's start with one of his most infamous ones, that being the Taylor Swift VMA incident. I'm sure everyone and their mother knows about this by now, but in case you were living under a rock, at the 2009 VMAs, a Hennessy-filled Kanye stormed the stage, grabbed the microphone from Taylor Swift after she won Best Female Video to announce,
Beyonce had one of the best videos of all time.
It's funny because I feel like Kanye in that moment thought he was doing Beyonce a real solid one by doing this, but in reality it was probably super embarrassing for her.
Best videos of all time.
Once Henny Ye simmered down and faced the backlash of the world, he disappeared. Right after the incident, most staff told him he had to get out of the States and take some time off. So Kanye went to Japan to escape paparazzi, then moved to Rome to live for months before heading back to the States where he moved to Hawaii. While in Hawaii, he worked on his upcoming album, flying in collaborators such as 2 Chainz, Kid Cudi, Nicki Minaj, among many others. When he originally left the country, people thought, hey, maybe Kanye can be canceled. But then a year later, he delivered My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, revered as one of the best hip-hop albums ever and described by Ye as a backhanded apology. In describing the creation of this album, Kanye told New York Times it was a backhanded apology. It was like all these raps, all these sonic acrobats. I was like, let me show you guys what I can do and please accept me back if you want to have me on your shelves. Accepting him back is exactly what the culture did. My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy would debut at #1 on the Billboard 200, selling 500,000 copies in its first week, which was 50,000 more than his previous release, 808s and Heartbreak, which was released a few years prior. So, cancel culture 0, Kanye 1. Next up is that date, April 25th, 2018, when Kanye donned the MAGA hat for the world to see and ridicule him. And as mentioned prior, not long after this, he went on air to claim slavery was a choice. Again, we see Kanye get into some pretty hot water with these latest shenanigans. Oh, how will he ever overcome these latest controversies? Enter the Wyoming sessions. In June, just a month after all this craziness, Kanye would please fans with plenty of new music from himself and produce for others. In just 5 weeks, he released 2 of his own albums, Ye and Kids See Ghosts with Cudi, as well as executive produced Pusha T, Teyana Taylor, and Nas's album. The Wyoming sessions seemed to take the attention away from his foolish behavior just the month prior and instead focused it on the sheer volume of music he released in a handful of weeks. Cancel culture 0, Kanye West 2. We can keep going on with this, but I think you get the picture. Even when Kanye said George Bush doesn't care about black people, he had just released late registration and would sell out stadiums during his Touch the Sky tour, grossing $8 million in total. So looking at history, it seems like Kanye is uncancelable. I don't know if that's a word. Every time it seems like he could be canceled, he's done something amazing to bounce back and reclaim his spot on the throne of culture. In fact, with every preceding controversial stint he has, it seems like he walks away from it even richer and more popular than he was prior. So then, what has to happen for Kanye West, self-proclaimed god, cultural visionary, and king of hip-hop to be canceled? Let's revisit the 2 consequences we chatted about earlier, money and popularity. At least one of these need to take a hit. Although it's hard to believe, the fan base of Kanye actually holds all the power for both his money and popularity. You watching may say you're not even a fan of Kanye, but I'd argue that although you're not a fan, you're still in his fan base. Someone in his fan base are those who publicly support him, but also anyone who listens to his music, watches his interviews, buys his merchandise, and scrolls through to read that clickbait article that covers his latest antics. In the examples we covered where it seemed like Kanye should have been canceled, neither his popularity nor his money took a hit in any of the situations. When he returned from his VMA drama, he dropped one of the best albums I've ever heard, so naturally tons of people had it on repeat. And after donning the MAGA hat, Kanye made a cultural imprint by releasing 5 great albums back to back on his ranch in Wyoming. And most recently, his constant cyberbullying of Pete Davidson, Kim Kardashian, Trevor Noah, Kid Cudi, etc., 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 etc. He did it in such an entertaining way that people gave him the attention that he so desperately sought out, so his popularity remained. Just imagine if Kanye came back from his VMA outburst and dropped a certified lover boy quality album. Yeah, he would have been canceled really quick. Or imagine no one cared what he had to say about Pete Davidson. Media outlets would see that their Kanye news wasn't getting clicks and they'd move on from covering him. But neither of these things happened, so therefore Kanye remained as relevant as ever. I don't think I'm the only one who thinks as of lately, Kanye's musical capabilities have taken a hit. It's gonna be much harder for him to cause global controversy and then respond with a historically amazing album like he did in 2010 with My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. But instead, he's grabbing views and media coverage through his antics and as a result is still very relevant. However, I don't think this is a lasting means of relevancy. I think that if he can't deliver a product as he's done before with his music and more lately his merchandise, he will lose the culture. Even recently, we've seen one of the consequences take a hit, that is money, through terminated brand sponsorships. If this continues, maybe Kanye can be canceled. But it is Kanye. Whenever people count him out, he always seems to bounce back and remain relevant amidst all the chaos, drama, and ignorance he so constantly serves. Again, I'm not saying whether or not Kanye should be canceled, but these are my thoughts on whether or not I think he can be canceled. Check out our top 5 Kanye album rollouts and be sure to subscribe.